Welcome to the Thrive podcast with the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church.
How does your faith kind of play into it, or does it play into it?
What can be done about it? When I say the church, I'm talking about evangelical white Christians and the black folk who attend their churches.
Hello, welcome to the Thrive podcast with the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church. I'm Fred Jeff Smith, pastor of Shiloh, and I'm very happy that you chose to spend this time with us. You're either viewing us on YouTube or listening to us on iTunes, Spotify, or now Amazon, and we're grateful for your taking the time to share with us. As always, we want to encourage you to give us your opinion about the podcast. You can reach me at fredjeffsmith@cox.net, fredjeffsmith@cox.net. Let us know how we're doing. We're trying to get back on track not post-pandemic, but during the pandemic, with having our regular weekly interviews. And I'm very happy today to welcome Councilwoman Erika Green, Councilwoman for the District 5 of East Baton Rouge Parish Metro Council. Councilwoman Green, thank you for taking the time to share with us today.
Thank y'all for having me. I'm an avid podcast listener for many podcasts, but I just want you to know that I listen to this one as well, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so very much. So tell us how you got to be Metro Councilwoman Erika Green, because I know a little bit of the story, but others might want to know the background of how that happened.
Well, when I graduated law school, I was still very involved in the community. And to be honest, I had 3 community service events back to back, but they were MLK Day of Service events. Over 1,500 volunteers each year with my sorority. And so at that point, I was able to work with a number of partners, and Ronnie Edwards saw me at that particular event, and I'm gonna use her words. She said when she saw me operating so young with all these people, managing a large event like that, she asked me, was I interested in politics? At that time, I was not. I did work on a number of campaigns in those years to come, but eventually I realized that was a calling for me to expand my network with helping people. I really just wanted to help people. Didn't want to get into the politics of everything. But in 2016, late Representative Ronnie Edwards went to a state rep seat, and then I was appointed to the Metro Council as her replacement. So I was appointed first for a year, and then I ran end of 2016, and I've been serving ever since.
Okay, so as I understand it, council persons can serve 3 consecutive terms.
12 years.
So you are running for your second full term.
Yes, sir.
The previous time that was Councilwoman Edwards' time does not count against you for running.
No.
What have you learned through the first term as Councilwoman that you did not know? I understand that the job is monumental, and I understand that it's thankless. You've always got somebody telling you didn't do this right, you didn't do that right, you didn't come to my birthday party, and all this other kind of thing. But
you know my constituents.
But what have you learned 4+ years in that you didn't know when you took the job?
So one thing I've always been is opinionated. And sometimes you learn that that's not the best thing. So when I came in the seat, I was the quiet, and I sat down and listened and tried to see what everybody was doing. But the opinionated part goes with your values and the interests that you're serving for. And I learned a hard lesson about voting my conscience as opposed to voting what the people want. And that takes time, right? You have to be able to balance your constituents have to understand that balance. Your colleagues have to understand where you stand and why you stand that way. Many people think, oh, this person gave her money or this person funded certain things. The truth is, my actual first campaign was really funded by lawyers, because I am a lawyer, and I learned that that my role on that seat is to think about the people that don't have a voice, and not necessarily Erika's only voice and the one that she wants and the things that she thinks. And then I have to think about the colleagues and how I can work with them. And we don't always agree, and you know that.
Yes.
But I'm saying, even on the same side, the same race, the same party line, we have to have strong conversations with each other.
Yes.
And so learning to discern when to make a move, when to make something your issue, because I've learned also everything is not my issue. That may be council person such and such issue, and I will back them, I will stand with them, but I'm not going to go to bat for that issue, because that's not the interest that I serve. And so for me, that was the biggest lesson, learning how to stay grounded and understand that even if you're voting for your constituents, you're not losing yourself.
In your second term, what's your priority for your district going forward? Give me the geographic parameters of your district.
So the northern side of the district is Scenic Highway.
Okay.
And that's the correct way to do it. Scenic Highway. We go on Plank Road, so you're going to cross over Scenic all the way to Plank, and then you cross all the way to Airline, right?
Okay.
I go all the way as far out as Flannery Road.
Really?
To Central, like that side. And then Hooper Road, I go all the way to Comita Estates.
Okay.
I do have Park Forest, so I go down Greenwell Springs Road. I have some of Park Forest. I end at Park Forest, so I don't have the whole thing. And then I jump back in further down Greenwell Springs Road. So I tell people it's a large district.
It is a large district.
It
larger
has
than I realized.
very different socioeconomic needs. So I have some poverty-stricken areas that don't have neighborhood associations. Then I have some strong working class retired people who are very adamant about their needs in their neighborhood because they purchased this home. And so they have different interests. They do want to know, what are you bringing to their district? Obviously, I always want to, my main priority is holding city parish government and contractors accountable. I say that because it's hard for individuals and constituents to see you do that. But I have done that in outside meetings. I have done that by talking to department heads and sometimes even talking to the mayor's office, because administrations changed when I was in office. And so everybody's administration is different. Department leaders leave. So you have to understand that when I say holding people accountable, I'm holding them to the services that they're supposed to provide for the city.
Right.
And then always economic development is a strong part. I have an industrial district, so most of my businesses are smaller businesses or warehouse type businesses. And because you're looking at your airline highways and your Hooper roads, and that's not normal for a district. So you have to think that I may never get an entertainment spot in my district just because of the makeup and the planning and zoning of the area. But I am believing that we will eventually have more lodging opportunities, more restaurants, and more entertainment for our district.
When you go to a Metro Council meeting, you guys meet typically twice a month. I watch a number of those meetings. It seems like, and you alluded to it a moment ago, it seems like there's a lot of tribalism, if I can use that term, that takes place within the Metro Council format. And for me, sometimes it's frustrating sitting in that chair watching the Metro Council meeting, because from my perspective, it sometimes appears as though decisions have already been made before the meeting took place, and the meeting is just there to confirm the decision that has already been made. I bring that up as a way of leading into the Alton Sterling settlement decision. It seems to me that that's the most recent example of where a decision was made before votes were ever cast. Do you want to share your opinion about what happened with the Sterling settlement?
So I think I have no problem with sharing my opinion about it. I see it as it's not priority for everybody. They may see it, they know it, everything happened, and everybody's going to find an excuse to justify their actions. Mm-hmm. I'm going to find a way to say that it's not time. Many of us have lived through it from the beginning to the end because it happened in 2016.
Yes.
And a good bit of us are well read, well educated, and very and have stayed abreast with the actual legal process. They knew how the community was reacting, mm-hmm. And so they know. I think everyone knows, but the issue is that we have to count votes, and sometimes what I see for that particular issue is that the life of that person, of Mr. Sterling, is not valued enough to move the case forward. Even if it's your last term, you've been on there 12 years.
Yes.
This can be the one thing you left as a legacy.
Yes.
The one thing that you can walk off and say, you're not running for another office. To my knowledge, you don't have any other interest in politics immediately, so you're not going to be burned by your actions. Mm-hmm. But we still can't count the number of people that we need for the vote. And we continuously hear reason after reason on why. But at this point, it is obvious that you have no desire to settle the case.
The really frustrating thing for me, because I live in her district, mm-hmm. is when Jennifer Rocca said that she was going to abstain because she didn't have enough knowledge of the matter in order to cast a vote. Are you really that stupid? And you didn't say that, I said it.
Okay.
Are you really that stupid? Are you really that uninformed that you can sit in a Metro Council chamber or Zoom, however it was done, and say, I don't know, 4 years later, 50 months later, you don't have enough information in order to cast an intelligent vote? It was absolutely, totally flat. I don't get surprised by a whole lot, but that one shocked me. That she chose. Why not just go ahead and vote no?
Vote no.
Rather than say, I'm too ignorant, I'm too uninformed, I'm too out of the loop to make a decision.
Well, I would say that, and I'm going to say how I handled it that day when she made her comment. I spoke from my lawyer perspective, mm-hmm. Because that's my classmate. Okay, so I'm saying that you too are a lawyer.
Yeah.
And so when the questions started to come to kind of derail the conversation to the wording wasn't right, that's why I could not support it. The truth of the matter is settlement is the same when you learned it in first year law school to when you are 10 years later practicing.
Yes.
And so I don't think that was a true statement, but I would say that for her there must have been some interest, in the current election, and I can't make a movement right now. But I would venture to say from seeing her post and knowing her as a person, that at some point she posted that Black Lives Matter on her council page when there was a recent death in a whole nother state. And so if you can say that about a whole different state and you have knowledge of how this works, then you could have made a decision.
Yes.
So
the Metro Council currently, and we're 23 days away from an election, so things are going to change.
I know you count. You count on your page.
I do count.
Count a lot of things.
The current makeup of the Metro Council is 7 Republicans, 5 Democrats, 7 Caucasians, 5 African Americans. In your opinion, if you don't mind voicing your opinion, is the composition more white, black, or more Republican, Democrat?
I would say on the surface it's definitely Republican, Democrat. But I mean, the obvious is that it's white black. But I would say on the surface, the way votes go, I was talking to one of my colleagues the other day just about taxes, because I have a tax exemption coming up. And his statement was, I despise taxes. But I think the one you're bringing is a necessity. He's like, I despise exemptions. He's like, I know that doesn't go together, but that's why I can't support certain things. And so I think that in the values that he have and his interest as a Republican, he really is voting that way. But I mean, Baton Rouge is the South, right?
It is.
And so the South has innate issues that was passed down, that was ingrained at school, and so you can't forget about that when you're sitting on the seat. That's why they tell you, get to know your candidate, get to know your council person, your elected official, because the interests and the values and the schooling kind of helps you move forward. That's kind of what they're saying about our Supreme Court nominee, is that she went to the same school as I'm gonna say Mandy, state rep in New Orleans. Same exact school path. Mandy is totally progressive. This lady is not.
Yes.
So you're thinking, if I vote because she went to the school I went to, I would think that she has the same interest.
You're also an attorney. You're a practicing attorney. What's your specialty, or do you cover the field when it comes to law?
So I'm a general practitioner. So if it walks through the door, typically, not today, but typically,
Okay.
I would entertain said client. But my specialty area would be family law and civil, which mainly is successions and estates. But I do handle some civil litigation.
Okay. Do you enjoy the law?
Yes.
Okay. I have lawyers in my family, and some truly love the law, and some were like, what made me
I do believe
come to
that
this
there has to
decision?
be some other calling God has for me.
Yes.
At some point, because it is weighing on me. But I do love practicing law as of today.
Okay. She qualified it as
Yeah.
of today.
Tomorrow may be there.
With regard to the upcoming mayoral election,
You're getting tough.
well,
Oh, Lord. Bishop?
one of your current colleagues is pursuing a seat, the mayor's seat. What do you think is the motivation behind Councilman Watson running for mayor president? Do you think it's an issue-oriented campaign around something like St. George, or do you think it's something else?
So I wouldn't say he's the total St. George candidate, but I think there's a motivation to be in a higher position with very little to back it, right? But all you have to do is qualify, right? Just have to meet the
Yeah,
qualification
according to the
needs.
polls that I have seen, he's not doing very well.
Yeah.
But he continues to mount his campaign and continues to be a regular critic of the current occupant of the mayor's office.
Very much critical of the current mayor. Very much aggressive in the approach of what he believes is what will move the city forward. And I don't know if there's a true interest for the whole city in that platform. And I don't know if there's true vision for the city. I think it may be a personal motivation, you know. You knew all the time you wanted to run for something or you wanted to be something, and so you did it. I mean, it's a fast track from first term council person to mayor is really a fast track. Sometimes I think as African American elected officials, we try to wait. We try to look for perfect timing. And there's a different, what's the word we always use? There's an audaciousness that a white male has that has nothing to do with confidence. It's just, you know, they have a different type of in
You
mindset.
have no idea how much I appreciate the fact that you said that the way that you said it. You
Me and
didn't
my
try
friends
to
talk
find
about
a
that.
way to couch it or obfuscate it. You just said it. That was fabulous.
I see it every day, and we don't as black men or black women have the confidence that they walk in the room with sometimes, even with the qualifications. We're like, oh, I'm gonna wait some more. I'm gonna get some more education. I'm gonna read some more. And they woke up and said, I'm doing it right now.
Yes.
And people give money
Yes.
to such campaigns.
And unfortunately, that seems to be the main thing. If you get enough money, then you're able to mount a serious campaign.
Or run unopposed.
Yes. Or run on a post.
Always remember that.
Yes.
Watch the run unopposed side.
Yes.
Judicial, run unopposed. Council, run unopposed. It always amazes me.
Do you sometimes feel like the red-headed, left-handed stepchild with a limp?
All the time. All the time. Especially I have been places with other elected officials, and everyone speaks to all the men, speaks to the white men, and then it just, oh, wait, I didn't even know that was you. Now I'm assuming my hair changed too much. That's probably don't know. But it is always, when you spoke at council meeting, I didn't realize that you spoke so
Eloquently.
Yeah.
And articulately.
It just, I don't know.
Amazing. That's the best answer I've gotten. I've been doing this for 2 years. That's the best answer I've gotten in 2 years. In my opinion, one of the most honest answers I could have ever received. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I've been waiting to use it. I haven't been asked to do it. It's in my other chat group. We go real hard on that one issue.
There is, on the ballot of November 3rd, there's an amendment to the state's constitution that will allow corporations to opt out of paying property taxes and instead negotiate fees as opposed to property taxes. It's Amendment 5. Can you share with me your opinion and how that might potentially impact the district that you serve?
Well, any tax exemptions or opting out of large corporations takes money from the budget that we use to service the community. And so, and keep in mind, we got a budget that's already been trampled with since COVID.
Right.
We have a budget that may be shaken up because of St. George.
Right.
And now the corporations that feed into our education system, our city budget, and even your law enforcement budget, because that helps some people to be focused. That if they get to opt out, we saw how much disdain that came from corporations just having the ability to judge them on a tax exemption, to put some guidelines in place. So the fact that now you're usurping that again shows that you want to continue to be able to make choices on if you put into the city government, and local government can't handle that opting in and out. We can do a little bit better on tax exemptions and making sure it's a case by case basis that we look at every corporation, but that's going to be hard if they could just jump over us.
Yeah. So the motivation behind that, I would imagine, would be to try to regain a certain degree of latitude that they felt like was lost by the governor, making it necessary that they come before your group, the Metro Council, the school board, and the sheriff's office in order to get approval for these tax exemptions that they were requesting. Is there anything that comes to your mind that has happened post the governor's mandate that you think serves as an appropriate motivation for them to try to circumvent your office and pay taxes?
I don't think anything has significantly happened besides the governor coming back and saying, let's give it right back to the commission to be able to make some decisions as well. The process, I think, what he did was put the process back to them again. And nobody ever goes to those commissions to look to see how the application went. It's because it's pretty much you put a stamp of approval on it on the state level. I don't think beyond the fact that there's been more advocacy toward this issue, more people are enlightened now on how corporations, are trying to keep away from having the mandate to give. And they say that, the exemption is only for this time period, and then they'll be back giving into the budget and giving back to the district. But some of our districts can't stand to take a loss anywhere.
Right. Let's talk about St. George for a second. I'm of the opinion that if they want to go, let them go. They changed the rules. They tried it once with the petition. They fell narrowly short, but they fell short. They went back and reconfigured the boundaries, opted out of all of the African American opposition that they saw, and pulled in all the people that they thought were favorable to their position. They got the vote. They won. My opinion is let them go, make them pay. I have no problem with them going. I have a problem with them trying to leave without paying. I saw this happen with Central. When Central incorporated, and it was primarily, all this is about schools. Let's not fool ourselves. This is about appropriating schools and facilities and not being held responsible for the legacy costs that go along with those things. I am fully in support of the mayor and Councilman Cole and whoever else it is that's a part of the suit saying you need to justify the costs that you're going to leave on the table as you exit. You need to pay this before you go. Saying all of that, what's your opinion about St. George? I've already told you mine. What's your opinion about St. George?
I believe that we're already having, so on the simple side of this, we're already having issues with services in city parish.
Right.
And there's already issues with the workforce and the ability to maintain. And most of the time, the workforce and the push for services are typically on one side of town. Now, I try to say that a whole different way when I go back to my district. But I'm saying that because those services are being funded. And when they get ready to leave, they're saying that they still want the same services.
Right.
And I think that you can't have both. Can't have the cake and eat it too. You need to make sure you're establishing all of the services, the makeup of your government that you want to have. And I think they just want to get out and have no plan, no clue. They have not established anything. And I just don't like that kind of movement. But I also don't think that we deserve to give them the master plan on how to move.
Right.
And that's what I think they
You're the
want.
one who wants to leave. Develop a plan that shows that you have thought about what leaving looks like.
And the problem for me, when you talked about the issues that came with the education system, we talked about us being public school educated.
Right.
That shift happened one time with you guys. The next group came with my brother.
She's telling you that I'm old.
I'm not saying that.
Just making sure you caught that.
But it was a different shift. It
Yes.
was one shift with you, and then that shift came right with my brother's class, where then they did another shift. So the school system has already tried to fix it, to desegregate it, to make sure that certain areas get certain types of schools. And at this point, this is the last resort.
Right.
And if that's the case, then we want our schools back. You can't take the teachers, you can't take the schools. Build your own system,
Right.
like the rest of them.
Right.
And I think that there is still a lot that EBR has to do to fix the problems of the result. I'm not gonna say the problems, but the outcome of all of the switches that happened, the movement, the flight that happened in our school system. And like I said, that was a couple of different segments of the movement. And we're trying to reestablish with magnet schools and trying to revigorate, I guess, the school system in certain ways, but it's hard. And so we
Especially
can't
if you don't have
afford it.
money, because you telling corporations that you don't have to pay property taxes. We have the most regressive tax system in the nation in East Baton Rouge Parish, in the state of Louisiana. We pay a higher percentage of sales taxes. We try to fund things through millages, and we are millaging ourselves literally to death.
I just had that
And if not to
conversation
death,
today.
to bankruptcy. But we won't pay property taxes. And I get stoned when I say you need to get rid of the homestead exemption and make everybody pay property taxes.
No, that's not a popular view.
And then make corporations pay their fair. Just a
Everybody.
$75,000 homestead exemption was back in the Huey Long administration. It's 100 years old. And you see the results of that. We don't have money. What you're describing as problems with schools could be fixed with dollars. But we don't want to pay dollars for that. And rich folk, white, black, purple, blue, doesn't matter. Rich folk really don't want to pay.
Yeah.
And you say that a 9% sales tax is fair. Fair to who? If I'm living on a fixed income, or if I'm living on Social Security, or if I'm living off of welfare benefits, 9% hits me a whole lot harder than it does somebody who makes $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 a year.
Yeah.
So how is it that we can say we want these things, but we don't want to pay for these things?
Because what you're asking us to pay for something that we can't tangibly see. I until I see the school system look a certain way, then I might say that. When people go to Zachary, they feel like they see it, and that's the hard goal of every black elected official, is producing the brick and mortar products. If you don't produce brick and mortar, what have you done for our district? Where am I gonna get the money, the partnerships to do that?
Right.
I can't create a revitalization study that you're going to support, because it's not what we used to seeing. We're used to church funds, and that's what we see. If the building comes in 33 years, then we're fine with that. And so that's the battle of the elected official, not necessarily all. I'm just saying the battle of the black elected official, because if you can't produce that, and I grew up in the age of the Cost Center, and Serenity 67, where they felt like nobody said Serenity 67 and the Cost Center had to be in your community center. We just wanted to see it.
Right.
So that meant that elected officials were doing things because their nonprofit and their program was visible. That's hard to do. I have to pay people to stay after work to manage a community center, to even try to do an after-school program to the level that it was being done in years before me.
I understand.
So that's a struggle. So you're trying to get me to jump to, the highest rim to talk about making my property tax connect to a foreseeable city, when I can't even see in my city, my district, actual, like I said, tangible proof that my elected officials were really working for me. That's the problem. We can't, and we can't connect dollars and cents, because dollars and cents to us are the materialistic things that we really don't need.
Right.
That's financial literacy that we're not teaching.
Baton Rouge currently is on a path to break records with regard to homicides in 2020. I think that Police Chief Murphy Paul has done a magnificent job as police chief. That being said, we still have a crime problem in Baton Rouge. What do you see as being the root of that crime problem that exists?
The root is always going to be poverty, right? That's the bottom line. But then I also add to it, and I've said this in many forums, that there is a lack of fear in young people now. That it hasn't. If you were fearful of anything, you wouldn't commit so many crimes. I know it's crimes of survival for some, but at this point, when you're killing people, I don't think you're attempting to survive. You're trying to prove a point. And you're proving a point that I am bigger than whatever's around me. So if you were fearful of your pastor, or if you were fearful of your parents at best, or your neighbors, then you wouldn't do that because you wouldn't want anyone to see that. And we don't fear anything anymore because we watch TV and we see crime sensationalized. I don't watch much TV, but the truth is I am desensitized to a number of things, and crime is one of them because you watch crime shows. And so though there is the poverty issue where, if I could provide jobs for every young person, then I would hope that the job would keep him, to have the fear in him to want to keep the job and not get in trouble. Because I got to go to court, I'm going to miss work. If I miss work, I'm not, the cycle goes on. But, that's one way to try to fix the problem. But I think, the bottom line is we're not accountable to anyone anymore. Murphy Paul can walk the street and literally the guys, the females would say hello to him and would not be fearful of him at all.
You mentioned church. You're a strong member of Gloryland Baptist Church, longtime member of Gloryland Baptist Church. Give me an honest assessment. One of the things that I talk about when we have these conversations is I try to probe people and ask them what your assessment is of what the black church is doing and what the black church could do better in contemporary times. Even before COVID, if we were honest with ourselves, black church attendance was sagging. It continues to sag. It has sagged for the last 25, 30 years. That being said, there is still a core group that strongly believes in the church, strongly supports the church. I have been validated in that statement by seeing how the membership of this church has supported this church through this COVID crisis. But as a person of faith, as a person who goes to church, because sometimes I'm talking to people who don't go to nobody's church, but as someone who goes to church and who sees things, what is your assessment of the African American church, and what is it that you think that we could do better?
On a large scale, I think that churches do a good job of the main thing that they're supposed to do: preach the gospel, connect with the members, give them hope and faith. But then there's a disconnect when it comes to outreach and services. But then you also have to think about every church cannot manage to do all of those things and maintain the lights and everything. Also, every church does not have a membership that also thinks that outreach is important, whether it be directly to the church or outside of the church. And so you can have a leader come in and say that we're going to switch our focus to try to do these things, or we're going to start educating our membership on this. I think that you also have to think about the membership may not want all of that, but the goal of the church is being met. The issue I am having now is that we are still having a lot of, as a lawyer that focuses on family issues, I think that we're missing a big mental health side that can probably help resolve some of these generational issues that we're having if we would be real about some of our mental health concerns. Especially we're going through disaster after disaster, pandemic after pandemic. A lot of families are dealing with, the family structure is definitely changing. So preaching a gospel that only addresses a certain type of structure, you're going to miss some people in that. And so I think that means you got to cater, you have to do things a little differently. And I go back and forth with my family on this one. I don't know, because I'm thinking about all this, all of the churches in my district. Many aren't large, but their membership supports what that church gives.
Right.
But then you have your millennial and younger group that's completely being left out. And that might be some of our own doing, but I think that pastors have to make an intentional effort to reach them. And some people don't think it's worth it. They're not going to give enough money. They're not going to be consistent enough. They're going to go to, as my father calls it, a new church. You're going to go to the next church, and you're going to like that church for 2 years, and you're going to leave again. And it's no issue with the ministers who have growing churches, but that's how our parents see the way we're looking at church. And I have a number of friends who say they don't need to go to church, especially now that you can get everything online. And so, but there are people living with depression and anxiety and losses, whether that's grief, whether that's divorce, whether there's parents out of the home. How are we going to address that as a church? We're just going to keep saying, see you next Sunday?
Right. We're
going to keep marrying everybody and just saying, hope you have a good marriage. How are we going to reach the real issues to keep people and keep out those generational issues?
So there needs to be more contemporary training that comes from a spiritual perspective. Is what I'm hearing you saying. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. That's what I'm hearing you say. And I would certainly agree with that. You brought up a mental health issue, which leads me to one more topic. Bridge Center for Hope is about to come online. We met, we being Prophetic Voices, our coalition of clergy, met with Ms. Claiborne today. As this is being recorded, on Friday, October 9th, we had a 45-minute discussion with her about the Bridge Center for Hope. And it's the product of a dedicated tax.
Another tax.
That came through East Baton Rouge Parish. Do you have any thoughts about Bridge Center for Hope going forward?
I have to see it come to pass, right? I toured it the other day.
Okay.
I talked to Ms. Claiborne a lot. I told her to call you guys. And I have to see it come to pass. When I toured it, I can visualize it. My issue is their transportation concerns. Driving down the street, I see some people that I don't know how they're going to actually get there. How are they going to know about it? And are families going to take it serious enough to bring their family members there? And because it's funded by taxpayers, are we going to meet the need of the community? Because there's still a certain number of beds, still a certain number of rooms.
64 beds for a parish that's 400,000 people.
Yeah.
It's one of the concerns that I lifted, and of course, being perfectly transparent, one of the concerns we have is that people of a certain income will be given preferential choice with regard to bed space, as opposed to people who don't necessarily have the same economic means. And so that's a deep concern that we have. That being said, I do think the presentation that she made was very impressive, and I do think that it's a move in the right direction. But I agree with you that there is a mental health issue that is prevalent in this parish. that we have for too long not addressed, and that is causing a considerable amount of suffering that takes place within this parish.
And not only not addressed, but created an environment where the expectation is that everyone should address it. So you're not necessarily addressing it, but law enforcement should address it.
Right.
Preachers should address it.
Right.
Families should try to figure out how to do it. So the other issue is the experts that need to be touching these people. You know, we're hoping that's the quality of people that we'll have in that facility. Again, still a small facility, but that's my major concern. I asked one of the first two questions I asked her: where are you getting your employees from? And are you doing comprehensive ways to reach these people? We have medical professionals everywhere, and I remember when Baton Rouge General had their psych floor. And I know a couple of people that worked there for years. And so that is something that I think that we have experts here, but I am really concerned with us just putting people in the position because we have to fill the vacancies, and then we're not really meeting the need from that perspective. But yeah, this is going to be hard to reach a lot of people in that particular area. People have a hard time, Plank Road, which is not that close to here, but Plank Road is the largest traveled area for people with no vehicles, right? Without
I did not
vehicles.
know that.
That's why we're doing, when I say CATS is doing a bus rapid transit system on that street, because it's the most traveled area without individuals with cars. And so how are the people going to get there? It's a huge question. It's a centralized location. Florida Boulevard is the most central place you can be. But, if and even a bus stop right there at the corner, I still think will be hard stretched to get the people that need the actual services there.
You went to Prairie View.
Yes.
How'd you make that choice?
I wanted to go to an HBCU. I was a SWAC baby. My parents had season books to Southern all my life.
Okay.
And me and my brother, so I'm going to throw him in here too if I would get bashed.
Not going to get bashed. I'm just curious about the choice.
We said we're going to HBCUs somewhere else, and our parents supported that.
Okay.
And so I visited Texas Southern, and I wanted to go to Texas because I thought everybody in Texas was much smarter. Right?
Okay.
For some reason, I thought that, and then I was getting paid for doing papers, and then I realized that was not the truth. But he went to Alabama A&M, and then I went to Prairie View, and best decision I ever made. It grew me up. It provided me many opportunities. Because of Prairie View, I was able to be an FBI intern.
Is that right?
In the Sieges Division, yes, and which is a highly competitive area. And because of Prairie View, I was able to get all of my law school pre-law studies paid for through their summer programs, and so I believe that they really helped me. And I developed really great friends who are still doing great things in the community. Prairie View produces productive people.
Yes.
Remember that.
Yes. Yes.
So we have the highest retention rate. I'm actually recruiting right now. Highest retention rate. So we have fun, but we actually stay in school. So.
You lived in Texas, and you made the choice to come back to Baton Rouge. When you came back, I love Baton Rouge. Born here, raised here, plan to die here. I love Baton Rouge. But a lot of people leave here and they don't come back. You made the choice to come back. What was the driving force for you to come back?
I went to law school. Southern Law School is where I went. So I came back for school. That first 6 months was a struggle for me, my family. They were empty nesters, and we don't have kids here. And so it was a struggle for me. And then I just felt Texas is fast paced. Texas has a lot more things. Everything about it, even the I would say the eclectic side of me felt like the cultural side of me was birthed in Texas, and so that was hard to come back. But what I learned, and I remember one of my best friends and I were talking about it. That meant I had to bring that back here. Mm-hmm. So that's why I have a IWE Festival. That's an urban book and culture festival every year. That's why I have a mentorship program that specifically teaches about cultural awareness for young Black women. Mm-hmm. Because I felt that was missing. Again, going back to some of the reason why we have a lot of issues. I believe that if you are educating young people and Black kids on their heritage and their self-awareness, then they become stronger individuals. They're not teaching that in school. Mm-hmm. I think at one point in Prairie View, I tried to be a Black Panther in my head. Mama pulled me back. But at that point, I realized there's something about having a connection to your heritage that it takes years to learn, because we're not sitting with older people and listening to the stories that they've overcome. And so once I got to the point to know that I'm needed here, I know that my perspective was needed. I think that's when I realized I can't leave. And a number of my friends and I still have that conversation, colleagues have that conversation. And it's a hard stay because this is not a progressive city. The city does not support young people and their voices. I think we're moving there now. Mm-hmm. And so I think that I'll give a quick statement about Visit Baton Rouge. When we started doing the festivals, and Byron Washington started doing some of the North Baton Rouge projects and things like that, we asked them to promote Southern better. And they said, well, I thought we were doing good. It was literally one post. LSU had 17 marketing things happening with Visit Baton Rouge. If I go to Atlanta, if I go to Houston, I go to Dallas, I can look on the city's page for tourism and find a number of different things that I can do that same day that my people are at. We had to meet with Paul and his staff and had to give them graphics to show them how to support and to project the African American experience in the predominantly Black city called Baton Rouge.
Wow.
They literally could not figure out how to do a picture on social media. So I know that there's more need for us here, and I say us, the talented tent, to be here, right? To bring forth some of the knowledge that you've learned.
W.B. Du Bois reference?
Yeah, I love him. And I have a little Booker T in me too. But that group has to stand up and start sitting in these rooms and holding accountable all of these spaces so that this can be a city that is a comfortable city for you to grow. We shouldn't have had to have Alton Sterling for you to wear a Black Lives Matter shirt.
Right. I do feel, and we're close to wrapping up.
Okay.
But I do feel that there is an anxiety that exists within young people. I can call them young people now because I'm old. Where they feel like we're not moving fast enough, and I understand their desire to see more quickly, but I also recognize that it's difficult to appreciate where you've come from if you're constantly looking at what you haven't done rather than look at what you've accomplished. I'm almost 60 years old, just turned 59. I've lived here most of my life. Lived in the South my entire life. I spent 9 years in New Orleans, which is very different from Baton Rouge.
Yes.
But this city, for all of its faults, and I can give you a list of them, has come a long way from where it was. And I think that sometimes we don't get enough credit for what has been accomplished because we're constantly looking at what should have been done by now. And so I appreciate the fact that you made the commitment to come back. And I accept the assessment that there's more that needs to be done, and that's why you're gonna stay.
A friend of ours who was a council person in South Carolina, he came down and actually spoke for MLK Day, and he was like, "This is just not normal to have that many young black elected officials." I'm by myself, and so that's when I kind of realized, hey, we are all right. We're not as bad as we seem. We do have to get on the same page sometimes.
Right.
But when he said that, I felt like, well, the accomplishments and the vision and the goal from individuals that started running and strategically running back in the day have finally been met. And we just have to continue to work on it and to keep it. And I think also that there's going to be some changes in the next couple of years with the makeup. The city is a black city.
Yes.
And so now it has to look that way.
Yes.
Whether it's on the judicial seats, whether it's in the council, whether it's in leadership in city government. You can't be mad if we have 7 people that's black in leadership. That's the makeup of our city.
Right.
But I think that, like you said, New Orleans is different. They are truly representative of their diaspora of culture, and so hopefully I hope we can get there.
This has been truly a delight, and I really appreciate you taking the time. Typically, I'd ask questions about progeny and whether or not you want them to live here and so forth and so on. Rather than do that, I'm going to give you the opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say to your constituency, because you are a candidate for the District 5 Metro Council seat.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I just want my district to understand that the process and the type of leader that I have presented the last 4 years address some of the things that I said today: cultural change, address progressive policy, address community commitment. I'm not just in organizations. I have been in leadership capacity. I've not just worked with our people. I've been on the Forum 35 committees and the Junior League committees, and I understand how both sides of the table work. I have a passion for District 5 because that's where I grew up. That's where my parents still reside. But I also have a passion to making sure that I can complete some additional projects in this district. I need to be in the seat to complete those projects. And so that's what I'm asking for: support. I'm asking for prayers, and I'm asking for the trust of the community to know that we talked about the brick and mortar is coming, but I need additional time to do that.
Thank you, Councilwoman Green, for taking the time to share with us today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for viewing. We'll be back again next time.